I then eventually proved it. I said, yeah, listen, you can make a career out of video games if you have strong design skills, storytelling skills, development skills. That's a viable career. Yes, yes. Me too. Yes. SharePoint 2003. I had a 2003 server farm in my house. Hi, so my name is Maria Espino. I am the CEO and president of The Last Prophecy Gaming, but I am also a Microsoft architect. And I also do help small businesses and medium businesses and enterprise businesses really adopt their Microsoft 365 tools, and have done so for many, many years since the inception of Office 365 in 2010. Lots of experience there with me in both those things, having run a small business and also being able to have the technology knowledge and know-how from a back-end perspective. Interesting thing, I actually have a PhD in Egyptology. So I'm actually an archaeologist by education, right? But because I was born with a rare illness called cystic fibrosis, I really had to kind of reinvent myself halfway through. I couldn't do a lot of the traveling and a lot of the things that were required of someone who was in archaeology, specifically in Egyptology. I had to kind of like reinvent myself, right? And learn something new. And I pivoted. I pivoted into technology. I self-taught myself everything about, oh gosh, we're talking like Windows 95, right? And then just the emergence of the internet at that point. So HTML and all these kind of things. And I just read a lot and started that and kind of parlayed that into a career in technology. And as Microsoft kind of became my focus, just because I saw what it could do in bringing people together, specifically SharePoint at that time. I really, I was enamored by it, to be honest. I love SharePoint. I love SharePoint still to this day. And so, because of that, I just kind of fell in love with everything that Microsoft was doing and kind of focused on Microsoft. And I did that for many years. But that tried and true, my love of video games runs deep. It's since I was a kid. I'm 49. So back in those times, it was unfathomable for someone to like have a career in video games, to actually, have a fruitful employment in video games. It was just something silly, right? And so I set out to kind of say, no, I really do think you can have a career in video games. And I just set out to prove that. And so as I was consulting and doing all of that, I was also building my business in the background, as most people do. Most small businesses start out like that, and you've heard the stories of like the garage and this and that, and right. So I decided I was going to really make a go of that. And so as I was working this 2 jobs, right, I then eventually went and proved it, right? I said, yeah, listen, you can make a career out of video games. And if you have strong design skills, storytelling skills, development skills, that's a viable career. And so my company kind of handles being able to foster that talent and being able to place that talent into bigger studios that are like really building the games of today, those AAA titles of today. So that's kind of the story and the career journey that I had that's brought me to today. I think one of the things that was really, that has really been kind of at the core of consulting is that consulting offers you the ability to really keep up with the pace of technology as it's being delivered and being, released in general availability, right? So, you're always having to keep abridged of all of the new technology that's out there. I mean, like, let's talk about Copilot, right? Like that, I've been able to be part of the, early access program and been able to be part of, all those things that allow me kind of like a heads up before everybody else to kind of dive into this. I mean, I beta tested Teams. I beta tested SharePoint. So we're going way back, back when it was SharePoint Team Services. So like I have really been able to get and stay like neck and neck with what Microsoft is doing. And that allows me to be able to then understand all of the technology and how it works and what it can do and what it can't do, because that's also really important. And being able to guide our small business owners, medium business owners, enterprise owners. I mean, I've worked for some really big companies, you know, to utilize these tools, and because they trust me, and you know, they know that I will always do what's best for the users. I'm very user centric, so that's always been a great thing for me. Now I've been able to apply that when I decided to build my own tenant in Microsoft 365, and been able to, you know, structure it well, and being able to take all of that knowledge and be able to, you know, have an onboarding system with, you know, we work with a lot of contractors. So we work with artists and programmers and voice actors, but we also work with directors and, you know, animation specialists and production managers and all this kind of stuff. So we have a very unique onboarding process through Microsoft Teams, which, you know, we have really adopted well. And also just being able to provide our end users with a very familiar place. So, you know, in our Microsoft Teams instance, and being able to have a structure that's pretty much similar when you go from one project to another, you have that familiarity, and that has helped our adoption quite a lot. And so our onboarding process is very minimal. People are kind of just like, oh, this makes all the sense in the world to me. You know, you make it as easy as possible, and it really does help quite a bit. So, because we are constantly working on various different projects, various different video games, various different filmmaking projects, because of course, video gaming in this century is a filmmaking process. We have actors in performance capture suits and all of that good stuff. So we have to have everybody on board, and so everybody comes into our tenant. They go into our what we call a Teams workspace, which is, you know, filled with several channels that are very familiar to them. We keep our channels very you know, similar from one project to another, so they know where the announcements are, they know where the documents are. So, you know, I think that the general feedback from them has been so positive, because they can come in at any point in time and they see that familiarity. So for them, you know, some of the things that they've said has been, this is the easiest production I've worked on, because they are productions. This is the easiest production I've worked on, and because I know where I can find everything. You know, finding is the new doing, and so you know, being able to find the script, being able to find, you know, Blender files, or what we call 3D files, or being able to pick up code from a certain repository at GitHub, which we have connected into Teams. Those things are invaluable, and for them, just being able to find everything easily is one of their biggest biggest enlightenments in our tenant. Yes, they're like, this is the easiest production I've been in, because I know exactly where everything is. And so, like, if an actor, you know, does one project for us in a specific year, they come back 2 years later, they're still so familiar with how we do things. And it's just easy onboarding for them. Yep. And I'd love to share some of my tips and tricks for how I've set up my tenant with Microsoft Teams and all of its connecting applications. So one of the things that I did was, you know, we started our company in 2016. So it was right at the onset of Microsoft Teams. So it was before a lot of the features that I'm going to be talking about now kind of were in place, such as, you know, Teams workspace templates and things like that. So keep that in mind as well. But I've set up my tenant, you know, with the knowledge that I have coming from, you know, consulting, and being able to get all of that technical know-how and build a brand new tenant with it. The first thing that I, you know, set out to do in my tenant was create a naming convention. I think a lot of companies don't do that. It's an afterthought for them. And then, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 years later, then they're thinking, oh, maybe we should have done some naming conventions, right? So I said, okay, well, I learned that lesson. And so when I started my tenant, that's one of the first things I did, and it helps a lot. So as you can see here, this is a screenshot of my actual working tenant. I do have some things blurred just for, privacy reasons. But as you can see here, I have quite different types of projects. This is our projects workspaces. Each one of these spaces has a prefix of PROJ, so I know it is a project workspace. And then you'll see that there are different types of projects and different types of games. We have your digital card games. We have your massive multiplayer online games, which are MMOs, or you have your massive online battle arenas, which are MOBAs, and you'll see podcasts and you'll see films, because we actually do films as well. So there's a method to this madness, and I think once folks within the company really start to see that, they are just so hyper aware of what everything is by just looking at this list. And once you have 50, 100, 200, 3,000 projects, this list does become quite long, and you need an ability for your users to kind of really pinpoint what it is they're looking for. Every team's workspace has a naming convention, and it denotes what type of project it is. Use a common user experience. So for me, that was, we have very similar channels. Now you'll see that I've expanded out these teams workspaces, and you see that every single workspace has very similar channels. They have announcements channels, which is moderated, and we have a projects document space, and we have planning and meetings where all of our scheduled channel meetings are held. So whenever any of our employees are looking for that weekly project status meeting, they know to go to that channel, and it's going to be there. So there's a similarity between all of the different channels, and it's recognizable. So I can take an artist that's working on one game and pull them into another game, and they absolutely know that team's workspace because they've worked in a very similar workspace before. So their adoption is almost nothing. They know where to go. They know where their project announcements are. They know where the documents are. If they're specifically part of a writing team, or if they're part of the music and sound team, they know where to go to, collaborate with other people that are part of their team. So everything is very similar in that sense. And, we keep our legal and management channels as private channels within those workspaces. So we use our private channels very much. And it's a subset of users that have access to those channels, like our lawyers and our project managers and, program managers and things like that, and directors, etc. So, everything is really very similar to the users based on their roles. Keeping a meetings channel has been kind of invaluable to us. Having a planning and meetings channel where, yes, you can have a channel meeting from any channel you want, any public channel or standard channel, right? But having that feature kind of funneled into a single channel has been great for our users. They know where all their meetings are. They know where their weekly status meetings are. They know where their daily stand-ups are. It's in that channel. So if you create a channel just for your channel meetings and your weekly meetings and project meetings and so on and so forth, people will know to go there. They don't always have to rely on having Outlook handy. The other thing that I like to be able to influence our small business users is to pin important channels. So like here, you'll see that I've expanded the pins channels. So for me, as a CEO, or as, I often serve as executive producer of a lot of these things. So for me, I'm constantly in those meetings. So the planning and meetings channels for all of these games, is something that I've pinned to the very top. So use your pinned channels. Also, being able to have an announcements channel for your projects has been really invaluable, just because you can turn on moderation. And a lot of people don't know that this exists, but you can funnel a channel so that only certain people can post to that channel. So like for us, it's our project managers, our production managers, our director, right? They're the ones that can post into these channels, and everybody else can reply. But how that helps is any important messages are in that channel, and they're not like lost to everyday chatter. We keep all of our everyday chatter in general. So that is very, very helpful to create a channel that's specifically for important announcements. And then using all of the tools that come with your license. I mean, you are paying X number of dollars per month per licensed user, and there's no reason why you can't use all of the tools. We constantly, not obviously you're looking at Teams, but we use Microsoft SharePoint so much. It's still one of my favorite things in the world for Microsoft. But we also use our OneNote. We attach our OneNote as a tab in our planning and meetings channel. All of our big things are really in that channel because that's where all our planning is done, right? Including our meetings. But we also use Microsoft Lists, which actually is on SharePoint. We have a timesheet on there that we've created with Microsoft Lists, which I'll show you in a minute. We use Microsoft Planner, and we use Microsoft Forms. We use all of the things that we can use that can be connected into Teams, so it's all found in one place, in one channel. With Microsoft Lists, you'll see we have a timesheet that is exported into an Excel sheet, and I can hand it off to accounting and they do their thing with it, right? So, we don't have to spend, we're a very small business. We don't want to spend the money on enterprise class, timesheet systems like ADP and so on. So, to help us save that money, we just created it with SharePoint, and it's been working beautifully. We use Microsoft Planner. The way that we use Microsoft Planner is extensive. We put all of our scenes into our planner, and we work through a process so that all of the columns reflect the process that we take a particular scene in a movie or in a game or in a cut scene, right? We take them from step to step to step. So a card that represents a scene moves along that process. So we really do use Microsoft Planner quite a bit. And we really get our bang for our buck out of Microsoft Planner for sure. As I said, I was born with cystic fibrosis, which is a genetic illness. There is no cure for cystic fibrosis, and it is a very debilitating illness. But it is also an invisible illness, and most people can't see, all the hardships and challenges we have just by looking at us. And that has presented itself in a very difficult situation as medical advancements have progressed, where now we're living into adult lives, full adult lives and adulthood and all that kind of stuff. And we're just been, presented with a challenge on how to find viable work. And with the onset of remote work being, kind of coming to the forefront, that has enabled us to be able to provide, career opportunities for people like me, and not just CFers, we call ourselves CFers, but anybody with a disability where it's difficult for them to travel or to go into an office building or et cetera, et cetera. So remote work really has kind of opened that door for us. And, we need to be able to, keep that in mind when we are, founding all these companies and small businesses, and being able to retain that flexibility. And Microsoft Cloud has been a game changer for us because so many of our people have been able to build careers completely remote in the last few years. And, it would be a shame for us to not continue that momentum and think about those people and have such very hard, restrictive decisions about you must be in an office or you must, this and that. Be more open to different types of people. And, you're never going to know what kind of talent is out there. I mean, I consider myself a pretty talented person and I have a disability. And, there's a lot of people out there like that. And I think that remote work is an enablement for us. And, it's something that I really champion. And working with, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation and mentoring young parents and other young CFers, working with them on career paths and, helping them choose college courses and things like that has been a fulfillment for me personally as well. So I'm a big presence on LinkedIn. I've been on that platform since 2006. So you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, and it's linkedin.com/in/Maria Espino.